Oh, we're live.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're live now. All right. All right, guys, welcome back to our Small Business Spotlight live stream. And we are here today with my good friend, Ashley Owens. Ashley, say hello to the folks out there.
Hey, Drew, thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited.
No, of course. It's awesome. It's good stuff. Ashley has a unique skill set, which I love. She teaches people how to network. And on top of that, she also works for a pretty cool company, a startup called Hiyo. We'll talk about that as well. But actually, you want to do your intro for yourself, not your 60 seconds, but just tell us about yourself.
I'm just a show pony. Basically, people tell me where to go, and that's where I go. No, my job is I'm a coach, so I teach individuals and teams and associations how to network. So all that tactical stuff that you try to manage and finagle and figure out, I sit with you, do something called a networking audit, and I go through what's working and what's not working in your networking activity. All tactical, all tangible, all very, 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 very organized. So that way you're not kind of spinning your wheels and talking to every Joe, Dick, and Harry that's out there. The goal is to be more intentional about your networking. And then I'm also a relationship manager for a company called Hiyo Social, and they specialize in networking technology. And that's how Drew and I, again, between networking and all these things, really connected. So that's why I'm here, just hang out and just to talk to Drew.
That's awesome. No, so how'd you get into that? Tell us a little about your background. Like, what got you interested in networking to the point where you were helping people to network?
How much time you got, man? Are we drinking? Like, is this like happy? It's 6 o'clock. I mean, it's happy time, right?
I don't have whiskey with me right now, but we could get some. I mean, you know.
So my background is a little eclectic. So my background is based off of film and television. So I used to work in casting. I used to be a personal assistant and executive assistant to 2 celebrities in New York. And so I worked a lot in the city, worked a lot in New York City. When I got to Philadelphia, I had 18 jobs after graduation. So that was due to mergers and acquisitions and budget cuts. And the only cool skill that I gained from that was the fact that I could talk intelligently to different industries, which then I learned that was a really great networking skill. So I worked at companies like eBay Enterprise. I worked at companies like Navport, which gathered data for oil and gas. I worked for a millionaire in Philadelphia. Like, there's so many different industries I worked in. And I realized that I was able, again, to connect the pieces with who's a good connection and be able to talk intelligently to those industries. So by the time I got to my position as a networking concierge, I was really tired of having somebody else to pick my future. I was doing and working my tail off. I was working when I was sick. I was working over the weekends for positions that I was really just a number. So I got pissed off like any Irish Catholic would do and decided I could do this better. And went to a networking event after I had quit my job, which you don't do ever. I'm not a quitter, and I did because it was time. And I went to a networking event, and I walked around, and I looked at everybody there, and I said, I don't want to change my network again. I don't want to change my industry again, because after all of this, it's like I built all these people. I learned more about who they were and what they did and what made them awesome. And I wanted to see how I could help them. You know, as a personal assistant, you become, you're of service to people, which I enjoyed being a fixer. So I went around at that networking event and I asked everybody there, I said, what sucks for you about networking? Like, what sucks for you about networking? And I got case studies. I learned more about what they hated about networking. And the majority of the answers were, I hate going to events by myself. I hate finding events. I hate doing the follow-up. And I hate scheduling, those connection calls or those intro calls. Well, complex calendar scheduling, I could do in my sleep in 3 different time zones. And I enjoy going to events because my background was in film and television, but I taught improvisation and acting. So I understood how to work a room and how to engage in a way with intention. So I figured how I take those skills that I learned for a long period of time and actually put them into a business that made sense for me. So by the time I got to the last person, I came up with some service offerings in my head just to kind of brainstorm with people that were there. Somebody overheard me and said, hey, would you ever network with somebody at a book signing? I said, yeah, sure. And he goes, all right, well, give me a call back in about a week. I have a book signing in State College. Now, if you're not from the area, I live in Philadelphia. State College is about 4 hours away. So in 2 weeks, I had a website, I had a logo, liability insurance, a master services agreement, a statement of work, an semblance of service offerings, a logo, headshots, website, everything. Like all those things that you need to do to duct tape a business together. And so by the time I got to those 2 weeks were up, I lived off of coffee, which is why I have an addiction now to espresso blend coffee. But I gave the guy a call back and I said, hey, are you still interested in having me come, to network for you at this event? He goes, yep. And so I drove 4 hours down to a 2-hour event, networked with people that he wanted to meet, not on the business development side as far as like sales or leads, but on the strategic partner side. So there was no pressure to sell. It was very much who did he want to collaborate with. And then afterwards, I drove 4 hours back, gave him everything he needed, and he sent me my first testimonial, unprompted, and the world opened up. And in 3 years, I have done over 200 speaking engagements. I have given over 1,000 introductions. I have trained teams and people. I've been on CBS as a guest. I've been a keynote speaker, all in 3 years, and I have not had those kinds of opportunities in the 18 years previous to that. So starting your own business was the best decision I ever made. That's
absolutely. Oh, great. And what I heard you say, summarizing part of that, and the theme there is, starting your own business in terms of being able to get the direct value out of what you're doing. The input you're putting in is now resulting in direct value. Whereas when you work with someone else, that value is skewed and goes through to them ultimately, but you don't really see that value at the end of the day, right? And so that's awesome. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think you froze out, Ashley. Ashley? There she is. You back? You were gone for a second. Are you back?
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back. Sorry, I think you the thing froze for the video for a second. I don't know if you could hear me.
Yeah, a little bit of a lag. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, no worries. It should be fine. But yeah, so tell us more about Hiyo. I mean, what's Hiyo? What is Hiyo? How does it work? What are folks seeing?
Yep, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me? There's a little bit of delay here, guys. Just apologize for those of you watching. We're having a little bit of a technical issue here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's definitely lag.
Okay.
I think it's gotten a little better now, hopefully.
I can hear you now. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. All right.
Okay, good.
Hopefully those issues are done. No, I was asking you about Hiyo. So tell us more about Hiyo and how you got involved with that.
Yeah.
And what you're doing for them.
Absolutely. So I'm about to sneeze, so bear with me here. Not COVID, already had it. So I worked with Jason, the owner of Hiyo, about 4 years ago. So he had reached out to me about different areas that they could build out this networking platform. So since I specialize in networking, he reached out to me to be a consultant for him to kind of help out with the follow-up process and like what best tools and activities they should be using, what people are actually needing to network properly and what technology to use. So the best part about working with Hiyo is the fact that when the pandemic happened, since they worked in a live events platform, since they specialized in working with people on a networking basis, I gave them a call in July. Well, first of all, Jason would call me every quarter and give me updates about the app. So the app was phenomenal, and I would talk about their company in all of my presentations as a networking tool. Like, this is a great networking tool to use, and I was such a fan of them in general. And so by the time I gave Jason a call in July of 2020, I asked him, like, I bet you guys are crushing it, right? You guys are busy right now. And he sounded out of breath on the call, meaning that he's been crushing it. Him and his team have been crushing it. And I asked him, do you need help? And he goes, yeah, I need help. So a couple months later go by, I would kind of, wrap up the kind of, position that they wanted to hire me for. And then I joined the team as a relationship manager. So my job is to get people to understand not only how to use this widget, but then to really kind of cater their use cases around best networking practices. So they brought me in to have some insight, because I'm technically the perfect client to be using that kind of tool. So they wanted me to come in and kind of have some insights more on how people and how their clients would be able to use this widget. So ideally, Hiyo is building community by providing a widget on your website. website. Drew, you have it, and so you're kind of playing around with it. You are going to have a call next week, but that's how I got involved with them. So as a startup, it's been great. There's a lot of people that are collaborating and working really hard to make sure networking is the foundation of that application, or excuse me, of that widget. So I'm there to, provide insights and get my audience, learning more about it too.
No, it's awesome. I mean, it's a really cool widget that works really well. And it's kind of this, it's just like, it's very customizable. It's one thing I like about it, which is cool. And so it's something that a lot of folks can use on their own sites and as they go forward. But in terms of, so networking wise, I'm going to go back to that for a second.
Sure.
When you're working with clients, like what are the top, few things you saw, like the top 5 things you saw with clients that in terms of things that you helped them with that they would need help with some amazing tips you would give them?
It ranged because networking is such a personal activity. It's not a one size fits all thing. But in the beginning, when I was going to events with clients at that time, I was going with a range of people who were power networkers that just needed an advocate on site with them to educate people on what they did. And then I had other people who just needed a buddy just to be there and to get trained in how to interact with people on a strategic and intentional level with no sales. So the goal was in the beginning to bring people to get my clients more comfortable with just going to events, finding events, and then following up appropriately. That's what I trained them on in the beginning. Now I have a lot of business development managers and sales teams and sales directors that reach out to me because their teams know how to close. They don't know how to engage with intention. So they understand how to prospect, but they don't know how to network. Like, what is the best use case around a networking group? How are you following up? How are you building this army of people that will advocate for you when you're not in the room? And the goal is to make sure that all of their activity, like their networking activity, is tangible. So the best advice, or at least what I saw in the very beginning, was people were afraid to even talk about what they did or to say it with intention. The second was people didn't know how to follow up or what was appropriate, like how to follow up without feeling salesy. And the third was really just identifying the right people to keep in their network. So everybody wants to talk to every Joe, Dick, and Harry out there, but how do you identify the right strategic partners to really enhance your own network? So those are the top 3 things.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things I'm part of a couple of different mastermind groups. And one of the mastermind groups I'm in, it comes up like, what's the networking ROI of these groups we're part of, right? Because we're spending all this time networking, meeting people, having conversations, having one-to-ones. Right. And what's the ROI in that, right? As business owners, time is the most valuable asset we have. And so we're sitting there spending hours and hours on the phone or on Zoom in the situation, right? And when things open back up again, we'll have to spend hours and hours on the road on the way to spend hours and hours at places, So what's the value of that? What's the value proposition? What are we getting back for that, for our time?
I just read an article that Hiyo put out today because they asked me my opinion on it, and it was the ROI Institute just put out, and I can send you that link so you can use this as a resource. Yeah. But I only got through the first line before I got distracted on something else, and it said that the ROI Institute was able to gather data around how much how one person in a network costs. That's $4,295. Like that is the value. No, per person. That's the value of your network per person. I didn't get past the title, so I just know that's what it was. But the ROI with networking is, you've seen, like, you remember the movie Beautiful Mind?
Yeah, of course.
He's losing his mind, but his entire wall is filled with pictures and articles, and he's got lines to everything. Yeah. There's no direct ROI with networking. Right. Networking is a marketing opportunity, not a sales activity. But in order for one to work, the other has to exist. So it's a necessary, and I'm saying evil very lightly here because it's not an evil thing. It's a way of building your own brand for it to be trustworthy. People don't care about what you do. They do not care. They care how you made them feel. And if you can change, or if you can identify, or you can connect with one person a day, you are now allowing more people not only to recognize who you are and what you do and what makes you awesome, but they're also able to communicate that for you as well. So if you're going into an environment where you know nobody, Stop trying to sell people, or stop trying to prove to people that you are valid. The validity is already there in your personality. People don't buy from people they don't know, like, or trust. They got to build that out. However you build that is based off of how you build relationships. It's the same in networking. So people don't necessarily, switch out the two. We were just talking about our buddy James Corbett, right? James and I have been friends for a little bit, but we've only gotten closer because we've gotten more personal, meaning like we know about each other's families, we know about each other's friends. And that's honestly coming from these professional conversations that we're starting with and then going into other things. So if I need something here or we both know we can call each other and we trust each other, right? That's how you build an army of people that will advocate for you when you're not in the room.
100%. No, absolutely. And it's about authentic connection, right? I think that's one thing we've been seeing with Zoom is like, you get an insight into someone's home life. You see their dogs, you see their kids, you see their significant others, you see their family members walking around, and like you can't hide that stuff. It's in their lives. It's right in front of you. Whereas, you meet someone at a networking event, you see that person as their representative. You don't see who they are. You don't see what's behind that for them. You just see what they want you to see, right? And so as much as things, there's a trade-off obviously with Zoom and with everything like that. The in-person connection is something you can't necessarily duplicate, but at the same time, that authenticity is still there, right? You can't fake it. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna plan to have my dog run through it this time and train him to do this. And I mean, if you can do that, maybe that's great. That's awesome. Hachi will not take that kind of training at all. I can guarantee you.
It's a human behavior. It's making you human again. Like finding a commonality is usually sometimes a shot in the dark at a networking event. Here, when you're on a call with somebody new, the commonality is that we're all suffering through something right now because we're still in a pandemic. We're still going through some things. We're still pivoting. We're still continually trying to grow. And now more than ever, discover what that other person's doing to grow and see how you can help them with that. The humility is coming out more in people. And I feel like it's allowing people also. I had a great conversation with my girlfriend, Shayna Fannin. She's brilliant. We had a great conversation the other day, and she was talking about how people are no longer giving the time of day to people that don't fulfill them. And that fulfilling can be subjective. So they're not spending 45 minutes on a conversation with somebody who's going to pitch them. They've got kids. They've got family they got to handle. They've got dinner they have to make. They've got a phone call they got to make. Like, people are no longer taking the random calls to be pitched. Relationships have become so much more important because truthfully, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't. And if this year has proven anything about that, the relationships you have are the most important to help you out of anything. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
No, it's absolutely true. And to your early point about the networking part of things and how it's about, being able to have those authentic connections with people. Yeah. The fun thing is I don't know if you know this about me, but I started coaching. I started as a dating coach, right? That's how I started.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I started with dating coaching, and then I transitioned from dating coaching to networking coaching because it's the exact same skill set.
It's the exact same, except let me tell you, I'm newly single. I'm recently divorced. I could not shut off. It's like we're having a private conversation. I could not shut off Ashley assists when I was going on these random dates. I couldn't shut it off. I was like, tell me about your life and your passions, and like, tell me about the kind of business you run. Like, do you want an interact? Could not shut it off. And it took me about 3 months and a lot of dates later to be like, you need to just shut it down. But to your point, yes, there is a foundational human behavior that comes with that, and who you want to keep around you.
Yeah, no, and when I got divorced, it was the same situation, exact same situation. My friends would make fun of me because they'd be like, we'd be at a bar and I'd start talking to people, and it's like, oh shit, Drew's in coaching mode again. And I start coaching people at the bar. I'm like coaching this girl. Like, why do you think tell me more about that relationship you had. Why didn't it work out? What was that like for you? Like, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
we're doing. Shut up. We're doing what we know. We're doing what works for us. Oh, we're being authentic. We're being authentic. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. Oh God, that's funny. No, but you know what? That to everybody watching out there, it's because we love what we do. That's why we can't turn it off, because we love what we do.
We live what we do. We love what we do.
So fast.
That's how you know you love what you do, when you actually live it and can't.
Oh God, I got stories. Oh, it was so bad. I think I turned this guy off by I think I gave him like but he was looking for a job. Forget it. What do you need? Who do you need to talk to? Do you need to look at your resume? I've got 3 people you can get your LinkedIn profile looked at. He's like, I'm pretty sure we had a professional meeting and not a date. I'm like, okay.
Ashley, okay, so funny story. Same exact situation with this girl. So I talked to this girl. There's a website called shadi.com, right? It's Shadi means marriage in Hindi, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
It's an Indian dating site.
Yeah.
Indian marriage site, really. So I connected with this girl. She's in Chicago, so we obviously have to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
With a conversation, and it literally was just me coach. She started talking about her job and how she's kind of upset about it. She wasn't a big fan of it.
It's like a tip. Yeah, we gotta like.
We talked for an hour and a half. It was scheduled for 35 minutes. The call, right? 30 minutes. We talked for an hour and a half about her job. I was coaching her about her job, how she needs to handle her manager. I was like, and I even went so far. I got so deep into it. I was like, let's set up a call next week and connect again and figure out see how things are going. And let me know how. I was like, let me know how this is going with your boss. And we did.
Did I send you a survey?
Oh, we had a follow-up call, and we started talking about her boss again.
We did.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, this is.
And then she ended the call by being like, "So when are you gonna come? When are you gonna come see me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, so you're kind of a client now, because I mean, not paying me, but I don't really see you as a, you know."
Oh God, it's so embarrassing. Oh, I love this story so much. I thought I was the only one. Oh, good for you, dude. Whatever. We love what we live, and we love what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
She's so lucky to get free advice.
Yeah, so I mean, she ended up being happier. I guess I don't know. We'll see. I never talked to her again. She kind of got upset at me.
Send her a bill and tell us what happens.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years later, post-dated bill. Yeah, that's great. That'd be great. Yeah. Services rented.
Oh, God,
that's great. But, yeah, no. So in terms of things that like that
this is so bad, dude. This is like, forget whatever you had scheduled, because this is way more interesting.
No, it is more interesting. But actually it ties into it though, right? And ultimately it's like the entrepreneurship mind, right? It's like we don't turn off our things we talk about. We're doing what we're talking about. We're doing what we live, right? We enjoy it because it's just something that we live. We enjoy we enjoy what we're doing. That's why we started the business to do what we're doing, because we're good at it and because we live it, right? And ultimately, yeah, I don't that would probably wouldn't have been a good connection anyway for me. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I also feel like too, like, you know, when you network, you also, if we kind of like mirroring it between the dating thing, right? Because it's fairly new to me, and I'm seeing the layers that come with it. I don't know about you, but my standard of what I will tolerate, I've been so spoiled by the amazing men and women in my life that I have in my network. They not only follow up, they check in on me. How are you doing? And I deeply care for them, deeply. If I look at a text back, it's like I'm assuming that your house is on fire, because it's just, why are we not adults here? So I feel like my standard for the kinds of people that I keep in my life have been incredibly high, just because of the kinds of professionals that I call friends, and I also call professional acquaintances, that have really leveled the playing field of the kinds of people that help me grow, that also cater to my own constructive criticism, like, hey, Ashley, we tried this. What are you thinking about? And people who see me for me. And I think that's the first time in my life that I've ever felt that anybody that started off as anybody that I have in my network that has been all professional have then grown into these incredible friends that will and have been incredibly helpful for my growth, my professional and my personal growth. And I think that moving forward with anybody new that comes into my life has to hit that, because that's the only way that's going to be a positive attribute to how I live my life. So when you build a network, it's so, and to the audience out there, when you build a network, it's so important to keep people around you that are smarter than you, that will call you out on your stuff, that will deeply, deeply say, like, if you give them a call and they don't, respond. Speaking of which, my friend James didn't respond to my messages today. Anyway, they'll call you back and they say, what do you need? Like, without question. And that is so much deeper than just a professional standard network. It is a community that you've built, and it's a community that you've thrived in and that you've earned. People don't, stay around. They don't stick around if you didn't earn their respect. And that to me is the best part about a network, is that you've got people that will advocate for you when you're not in the room, but also will support you when you're not even thinking you can support yourself.
Right. And I think that comes back to authenticity again, because it's if you build those strong connections when you're open and you're authentic about who you are and how you want to relate to people, because people can only relate to you if you let them relate to you, right?
Yeah,
you can't.
Gotta give them an opportunity to. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't connect with you if you have a wall up at all times, and then
Yeah.
you complain that people don't know who you are. They don't get to know who you are.
Yeah.
That's just. I mean, you have a role to play in that, right? And the ultimate question is like, what can I do differently? Not what can anyone else do, because that's, you can't control what other people do. You can control what you do, right? You can create more authentic connections by being yourself, by being more vulnerable. And again, this pandemic has taught us one thing, which is like that deeper connection comes when you're authentic, when you're who you are, when you're not trying to hide aspects of yourself or parts of yourself or parts of your life that who cares how people think about it. That's part of you, right? And you'll have these strong connections as a result, whether you're dating or making networking connections or making business connections in general. I mean, you don't want someone to connect with you thinking you're something else. And then when it goes to referring you, or when it goes to talking to you again, it's a disconnect. It's like, wait, I thought you did something else. You said you did this and this, and then this is not what I'm getting here, right?
Exactly. And so I so agree with what you're saying. I think there's another layer to it as well, that you and I are good at this now, right? We're good at this now. We were not always good at this. And I think there's a level of being proverbially punched in the face and figuring out what your authentic self actually is. There was a point in time in my life where I was going through the motions of going and working in corporate and working for other people and putting on a face that I assumed was me, because that's kind of how the culture and the environment kind of shaped me. It was not until that I started my own business where I said, well, I tried every other version of me. What if I go all in and test the waters and dip my toe in the water and be loud and be boisterous and be passionate and be energetic and curse a lot and just be very free and open with my opinions and my voice, which I always felt was always hidden in all of these other positions. And I never spoke up, and that got me nowhere. That got me laid off. And I thought if I was going to do my own thing, I wanted to be 100% me, and then double that, because I wanted to really start to open up the kind of person I thought that I could be. And it wasn't until I laid down those walls and things like that to really show that I am more myself than I've ever been. I'm 33 years old now, and I've never had the opportunity in any other working environment or any other profession to truly be able to be who I am. And I'm still figuring that out too, but I am happier with the kind of person that I am now than I ever was before, than what I thought people wanted to see in a professional work environment. I was joking around with my family the other day, and they had said, you know what? I remember when you talked all the time. I'm like, joke's on you. I get paid to do that now. So, so it was just, you have different parts of your life that are either like quiet, like that they quiet you, or they subdue what's happening, and you get into a routine of accommodating and being very submissive in that space, being very compliant. And as soon as you get the opportunity where that's acknowledged as a positive, like who you are as a positive, that opened up the door for so much more. All of these opportunities that I have received, it's because I've asked, and because I've searched for, and because I earned. And the people around me that trust me is because I earned their trust, and they have earned mine. So it's a very much like the growth has been exponential since I started my own thing, and it 95% had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the people that I kept around, the people that I listened to, because they were kind enough to see potential in me when I didn't.
Yeah, but I'm gonna challenge you a little bit, because you still kept them around. So that was still the part you played in that, right? I mean, you still allowed them to be there for you and allowed them to stay there.
Yeah. Well, to be able to open up and that vulnerability. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember being back in law school. Go ahead.
Being beat up. Go ahead.
No, what are you saying? Sorry.
No, I was saying that took a lot of being being mentally beat up.
Yeah.
Feeling like I didn't have value. And then once I started becoming affirmed that my value was there, even being myself was a whole new world for me. Very new. It was like, it's kind of like feeling like, not that I know this, It's like being in a cult and not seeing anything else, like not being able to see color. It was extraordinary when that clicked, and it was like, oh, what the hell have I been doing? And I felt like a baby deer out in the wild, and now you can't shut me up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to liken it to today's world, everyone's in these echo chambers, right? They're stuck in these echo chambers. All they're hearing is what they already know, what they already agree with, what they already believe, and there's no new beliefs coming in. There's no new points of view coming in. So how boring would life be if there's nothing new ever happening? How boring and frustrating would it be if you just said the same thing every single day, heard the same thing every day, and just got confirmation that your views are right no matter what, no matter how wrong they could be. You just got confirmation of that your whole life. You'd never grow, right? And I think that's one of the challenges is we have this so many people in the country who are just entitled and just have never been challenged with any ideas or that kind of thing because they live in these echo chambers. And Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they make it easier to live in these echo chambers because they just give you more of what you already like. They don't give you anything that challenges your views. They don't give you any ideas that don't follow what you already think, right? And so it's just there's no growth opportunity there. I mean, to your point about networking and about not being yourself and not being validated, I remember being back in law school and going to like ABA, American Bar Association networking events, right? And I was wearing a suit. I had to dress up and I had to be like this person I thought they wanted me to be, right? I had to fit into this mold I thought they wanted me to fit into. And I remember like coming out of like a 3-hour networking event being just completely drained and exhausted. I had a headache. I was like, the day's done. It was like 5:30. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like a long day. It was just like 5:30. And I was done. I was exhausted. I went home. I was like, I changed. I just relaxed and was like, I don't really like doing anything like that. You know what I mean? And it's just go ahead.
No, I agree with what you're saying. And I think that there's, just to kind of go even granular, because these are the questions I asked myself from the very beginning, like, how do you know when that's the time to make a change? Right. And I think it's important to recognize, especially for the people that are watching, that there's no time limit to when you realize to make a change. It will either come to you or something will help you make that decision. Meaning, like, whatever drives you to make decisions, that activity, keep in the forefront of your mind, because once you have an inkling of that once you have an idea of like, I should make a change, my body is saying yes to this change, just like, the energy that escaped you and you went and were not yourself. Start recognizing those signals and recognizing how you make decisions, and because that will allow you to be confident in that change. So my motivator for making a change is I got pissed off enough to do something about it. Like anger will make, or resentment, or frustration, especially over a long period. It was 18 freaking jobs, man. That took a long time for me to snap out of it, right? So however you make your decisions, recognize that as an activity and then trust in your gut, because that might be a fleeting moment. And that fleeting moment may pass you by, and it'll be another 5 years before that comes back again. So,
yeah, I mean, you got to honor your feelings, honor how you honor your body, honor yourself, honor how you're feeling, because the way you're feeling tells you something about yourself, right? Yeah. I mean, I even tell you what you think it tells you.
More than I do.
It's all good.
You do. I'm just like rambling about nothing.
No, but it's true. It's ultimately it's you telling yourself this is not right for you, whatever that looks like. Yeah. But part of it's also letting go of societal expectations of you. It's letting go of what you think you should be doing. That word, I hate the word "should." Right? It's like it makes you wrong. Because everyone says I should be doing this, so I should be doing this, and I get these questions like, "Oh, what should I be doing more of? What should I be doing less of? What should I be doing that?" Take a step back. No, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? Not what everyone else expects you to accomplish. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do for you? What's the value of this course of action for you personally? And people will get thrown off when they ask that question. And it's because they're just like, they never thought about that. Like, oh, well, my parents said this, or my friends said that, or my husband or my wife or whatever said this and this. And I'm living for everyone else. And suddenly, like, I wonder why I'm unhappy, because you're not living your life.
Yeah.
You're living the life that they built for you. And then they, by the way, they're just off doing their own thing, living their lives. And they don't give a shit about you right now, like,
dude, I'm sure you did this too. I checked the boxes. I went to school. I'm in a massive amount of debt. I worked as much as I could. And, I still got let go, not because of performance, but because things that were out of my control completely. So that there are so many, it's those societal pressures and how society shapes you, men and women, right? Both areas have different societal pressures.
Yeah.
It truly took me to get so angry and so emotionally distraught for me to say F it and just do something else. It took years for me to snap out of that, which is horrifying. Meaning, yes, it worked, and I'm very happy it did. I'm very happy the way the path went on. It should not have taken me that long. And the word should. At the time, it should have happened. Meaning, like, I could not have done this if it wasn't the same time it happened, right? Like everything I went through prepared me completely for this, right? I have no regrets. I don't regret my marriage. I don't regret the choices that I've made. I don't regret anything because it really shaped who I am. And I would not have had the story to tell to be able to have people feel like they can not only relate to me, but also that I have lessons and say, hey, I screwed up here, or I feel like I could have done something better here. So here, try this idea. So it gives me more of an opportunity to connect with people, which I like. They're not flaws, they're stories, parts of you. And I'm not embarrassed. I put my foot in my mouth all day long. But that also comes from my background of being in, I was talking about this background of being an actor. It wasn't a very good one because I'm not doing it now, but I did it, and I have no fear about feeling embarrassed because I will be the first person to self-deprecate.
Yeah, no, and self-deprecating humor, it's funny to a point, but then there's some truth behind that in your head, right? And,
yeah, very much so.
And there's pain behind that. But I want to go back to one thing you said, which is like, the societal pressures and that kind of thing. And but I think, yeah, society puts pressure on us, and it does have expectations and that kind of thing. But it's still on us. We still have a choice whether we want to do that or not, right? And I think people don't acknowledge that piece of it. They're like, oh, society made me do this. My parents made me do this. Mm-hmm. Like, one thing that annoys me is when people say like, oh, my parents made me do this. They made me this way. And it's like, they influenced you. Yes, they absolutely had an influence on you. 100%. They were around for your entire life as a kid, as your formative years. It's great. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. They had an influence on you. But ultimately, you have a choice of whether you want to invest in self-awareness to know more about yourself and know more where these things come from. And you have a choice of, once you have that awareness, what to do with that information. And people don't acknowledge that responsibility. I think that's my biggest problem with people today, is that they don't acknowledge responsibility. They don't acknowledge that I have responsibility. I'm going to take responsibility for things. I'm going to take accountability and ownership of the things that I've done wrong and the things I've done right. Right.
But I just to push back a little bit, I don't think unless you have the experience of that being an actual decision that's positive in your life to make that change, you're going to live the same way you've always lived because it's familiar. I think there needs to, or I think and parts of that are like, again, I can only talk from my own experience. I didn't know there was another way.
Right.
I didn't know there was another way for me until I was around other people who had either a similar story, or I saw, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, I don't have to do it this way. Having those conversations and being open about it allowed me to see the options. So unless you're around it or unless you're exposed to it, I think it's very difficult. And I could be completely off here, but I think it's very difficult to even know that it's a possibility if you don't see it. Yeah,
and that's my point. The self-awareness part of it, like, you have to be aware, right? Once you get the self-awareness, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not aware of it, like I said, if you're living in the water, if you're a fish living in the water, you never know there's water around you, right? Someone asks you how's the water, you're like, what water, right? But once you realize that that's water's there, that's when you have a choice, because you acknowledge you know that there's water around you. Okay, now where do I want to be?
Now that you've been exposed to it, like, how are you going to take that information and use it for good, use it for you? Yeah.
Right. But too many people are too comfortable being the ciphers of the world, and, to use a matrix reference, right? To say they actively will choose to go back in the matrix because it's easier, because they don't want to face the truth. Truth is hard. It's not easy to go out there and do your own thing, or to own who you are and really be able to be okay with it and ignore what other people are saying. People are going to make stupid ass comments all the time. No matter what you do, whether it's good or bad, right? And YouTube, Twitter, things like that are perfect examples of that. As this video actually has a couple of
I'm looking at them right now. These people are so much fun. Thanks, guys, for being so spicy on the comments.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. No, I mean, but ultimately they have their own things going on within their lives that they're unhappy about, and they're taking it on YouTube, right? They're clearly very, very, I would say brave people because they're using their real names with their, well, obviously, right?
Oh, that's fun. Yeah,
You know,
you never know what somebody's going through. I
that's what I'm
mean,
saying. They're going through their own stuff, and they're taking it out on YouTube. That's their choice to do that, right?
yeah,
But ultimately, people like that, for example, they have a certain message that they want to say. They have something that they want to say, and they feel so confined by society that they can't say it with their real names. They can't say it with any confidence in reality. So they're just going
yeah,
to complain about it, right? They're just going to hide behind something and try to do it whatever way is freeing for them.
yeah.
That's great for them, but ultimately, you're not going to get anything accomplished that way. You're not going to grow, right?
Mm-mm.
By trying to tear someone else down. You can't elevate yourself by tearing someone else down or
Nope.
trying to tear someone else down. That's
Nope.
not how it works,
Agreed.
So anyway, we're up on time. Actually, we're a little bit over, but that's all good. That's a good conversation. It's good stuff. We had a little technical difficulties in the beginning, but we got over that quickly. We rebounded pretty well. Actually, anything to leave folks with? Any last minute thoughts you want to share? We didn't really talk much about women in business, unfortunately, but that's cool. So,
I guess the thoughts are, you have a voice, and it's very important that your voice is heard. I mean, the one, especially if it's for good. In networking, what I would leave people with is remember who you are. Like, really remember who the hell you are, because there's going to be imposter syndrome if you're a woman in business that comes every 3 months and every weekend, whatever it may be. Remember why you started, and remember who the hell you are, because that is going to remind you of what you've been able to overcome and how far you've come. This whole year has been incredibly challenging, and the fact that we're all here still alive and still kicking means that we did something good, and it's going to get better. It's getting better. So just remember who you are.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great and Kendra, thanks for joining again.
Hi, Kendra. Who's that?
That's actually my girlfriend.
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, she supports me on my channels, but she also has awesome comments to contribute sometimes. So she works for 1 Million Startup, and she could not admire you more. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, now it's my goal to be best friends with her and just stick you on the side, because she seems like an amazing woman. Thank you so much, Kendra. I'm sorry, how do I pronounce her name? Kendria? Kendria. Nice to meet you, Kendria. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, she's awesome. But no, that's great. So I think that's a great way to end things. I don't want to tarnish that by saying more on top of that, but I love that. I mean, just own who you are, and just things will get easier eventually. So Ash, thanks again so much for joining today. Like I said, I know we had the technical difficulties in the beginning, but we got over that and had a good conversation. So for those of you who want to get in touch with Ashley, we'll put her contact information in the description below, and and we'll also send me that link to that article what the ROI of networking and whatnot. I'll put that in the description as well. Thanks so much for joining, guys. I appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit like, hit subscribe, reshare the video if you'd like, and leave some comments that are productive if you like. And I'll talk to you soon. Yeah, like Andrews, exactly. Okay, guys. Thanks.